Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. This is 𝐕𝐢𝐫𝐽𝐵, and in this video, I'll explain you how to create a MySQL database and connect via a GCP virtual machine on Google Cloud. So here you can see this is my Google Cloud console. So first let's navigate to SQL. Directly open this and directly select here create instance. So here we have three different types of database engines. One is MySQL and one is PostgreSQL, one is SQL Server. So in this video, we are going to create a MySQL database engine and we are going to connect via a GCP virtual machine. So in previous video, I explained you how to create a MySQL database engine and connect via MySQL workbench. Okay. So first let's create this MySQL database engine. So let's directly select here, choose MySQL. And here you can see choose a cloud SQL edition. So here we have two different types of editions. One is enterprise plus and one is enterprise. So here enterprise plus comes with a high availability. So if you want to create this MySQL instance for production grade environments, you can directly select here enterprise plus. So if you want to create for your own practice or else for development, directly select here enterprise and here directly drop down this. So when you select your enterprise plus, here in edition preset we have only the two options, one is for production and one is for development. So if you select your enterprise, by default it was having three different options, one is production, one is development and one is for sandbox. Okay, so here production comes with 8 CPUs and 32 GB of RAM and 250 GB of storage and it is high available. Okay, so here high available is nothing but you can create this MySQL instance in two different zones. Okay, so if your data is collapsed in one zone, you can retrieve from second zone. Okay, so this is nothing but this is high available. So here development comes with 4 CPUs and 16 GB of RAM and 100 GB of storage. So it has only single zone. Sandbox comes with 2 CPUs, 8 GB of RAM and 10 GB of storage. It also comes with single zone. So here I'm going to select development. Here you can see development comes with 4 CPUs and 16 GB of RAM and 100 GB of storage. Okay. So now instance info, database version. So here we need to select the database version. So currently I'm using 8.0. So if you want to change this to 8.4 or 5.7 or 5.6, you can change. So I'm going to select here 8.0. Now here we need to use the instance ID. So let's give the instance ID like first instance. So this is nothing but this is the name of the instance. Okay. So here we need to give the password of this MySQL instance. So let's give password like Vijay@123. So here you can see this is the password I have given. So if you want to give some restrictions to this policy, you can directly drop down this and here you can see you can give the set the minimum length and you can give the required complexity and restrict password reuse. So like this you can give any of the policies. So in this video I'm not going to give any of the policies. So directly I'm going to provide a password as Vijay@123. So you need to remember this password. Okay. So why? Because means if you want to connect to this MySQL instance from a GCP virtual machine or else MySQL workbench, you need to provide this password. Then only you can connect to this MySQL instance. Okay. So always you need to remember this password. I have given Vijay@123. So I'm going to hide this. So now here fourth step is choose region and zonal availability. So region. So if you want to create this MySQL instance in US Central 1, you can directly select here US Central 1. So if you want to create in some another regions, you can directly select that region. So in this video, I'm going to create in US Central 1. So that's why here I'm going to select US Central 1. So zonal availability. So here we have two different types of options. One is single zone and one is multiple zones. So if you select a single zone, directly specify that zone. Directly select your specify zones and directly select that zones. Here I'm going to select US Central 1A. So this MySQL instance will create in US Central 1A. Okay. So if your data has been collapsed with some of the disasters, you cannot retrieve the data. So in that cases, we have multiple zones that is high available. So here you need to go the primary zone and secondary zone. So primary zone I'm giving US Central 1A and secondary zone as US Central 1B. So here you can give the zones whatever you want. So here I'm going to select US Central 1B. So now if our data is collapsed in US Central 1A with some of the disasters, we can retrieve the data from US Central 1B. So this is the main advantage of using this multiple zones. So if you select here same zones, US Central 1A and US Central 1A, it will not accept. Here you can say primary and secondary zone should not match. So here you need to select some another zone. I'm going to select here US Central 1B. Okay. Now here you can see currently we have selected edition preset as development. Development comes with 4 CPUs and 16 GB of RAM and 100 GB of storage, right? So till if you want to decrease to 2 CPUs and 8 GB of RAM and 10 or 20 or 50 or GB of storage, you can directly come down and directly select here show configuration options and directly select here machine configurations. And here you can see currently it has 4 CPUs and 16 GB of RAM. So I'm going to change this to 2 CPUs and 8 GB of RAM. So here you can see automatically it was changed to 2 CPUs and 8 GB of RAM. So now I'm going to decrease the storage. Directly select here storage. So the first thing is here we have storage type. So here we have two different types of storage types like SSD and HDD. So when compared with HDD, SSD will be the fast. So I'm going to select here SSD. So storage capacity. So here you can see we have 10 GB, 20 GB, 100 GB, 250. So if you want to still increase the storage, you can directly customize and you can directly customize your own storage. So in this video, I'm going with 20 GB. Okay. So now this is the main important thing, connections. So in connections, we are going to connect using GCP virtual machine, right? So that virtual machine public IP you need to provide in these connections. Okay. So after creating this virtual machine, after creating this MySQL instance, we need to provide this public IP address of that virtual machine. Okay. So first let's create this. So directly select here create instance. So here you can see currently it is in creating state, our first instance. So let's select here SQL. So here you can see currently it is in creating state. So now it takes nearly 5 to 10 minutes to create this MySQL instance. We need to wait for that time. So meanwhile, let's create a virtual machine on Google Cloud. So we are going to connect to this virtual machine. We are going to connect to this MySQL instance using virtual machine, right? So we need to create a virtual machine, or else if you are having existing virtual machine, you can directly use that virtual machine. Okay. So directly open here compute engine. So in compute engine, you can create virtual machines. Okay. So already I created n number of videos on this. Okay. So I created a series on compute engine, like creating virtual machines, creating instance templates, creating machine images, as well as disks and snapshots, images and instance groups, health checks and load balancers, auto scalings and volumes and each and everything. So try to watch that series, guys. Okay. So once let's open this virtual machine. So currently I don't have any of the virtual machine. So let's create a new virtual machine. Directly select here create instance and here provide virtual machine name. So let's give the name like MySQL hyphen instance. So this is the name I'm giving. So region I'm going to create under US Central 1 and zone here if you select any of the zone it will create in this zone only. If you select here any, by default Google Cloud will create in this any of the zone. Okay. So when comes to this machine configuration, here I'm going to select E2 and E2 machine type I'm going to select E2 medium. So it comes with 2 CPUs and 4 GB of memory. Okay. So the second step is OS and storage and operating system I'm going to select as Ubuntu. Okay. So size is 10 GB. So if you want to create with 8 GB or else 9 GB, it will not accept, guys. Okay. So when I select yes, here you can see disk size cannot be smaller than the size of chosen disk. The minimum size is 10 GB. Okay. So here you need to be the minimum size 10 GB. You can increase up to 100, 200, 500. That is up to your wish. And directly select yes, select and directly come to networking. And here I'm going to allow firewalls as HTTP and HTTPS. And here in network interfaces, previously I created a custom VPC. So I'm going to select that custom VPC, which is my VPC. And I'm going to create this virtual machine in this subnet 1. Okay. So now I'm going to directly select here, create. So here you can see our virtual machine is in creating state. So after creating this virtual machine, let's SSH into this virtual machine and let's install MySQL client. And that using that MySQL client, let's connect to this MySQL instance. Okay. So in previous video, same like this we have done this. So we created a MySQL instance and we connected using this MySQL workbench. So if you are going to connect using MySQL workbench, you need to provide your local computer IPv4 address to this MySQL instance. Then only you can configure with this MySQL instance. Okay. So Once almost 3 minutes 30 seconds has completed, so still it is in creating state. Mostly it takes 5 to 10 minutes, guys. Okay, so meanwhile let's come to virtual machines. So here you can see our virtual machine is in up and running. So once let's connect to this virtual machine, directly select here SSH, or else directly drop down this, and you can directly select your view 𝐺Cloud command, and you can directly copy this command, and you can directly connect using this cloud shell. Okay, so if you want to connect from here, you can directly select here SSH. Directly select here authorize. So here you can see it was connected to our virtual machine. So once let's update this virtual machine by using sudo apt update -y. So when you are creating this virtual machine, try to update this virtual machine. Okay. So here you can see update has been completed successfully. So let's become to root user by hitting sudo -i. Okay. So now let's select here MySQL. And here you need to install this apt install MariaDB-client core 10.3. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to install it here. Enter and Y. And using this MariaDB client, I'm going to connect to this MySQL instance. Okay. So here you can see installation has been completed. So let's clear the screen and let's select MySQL. So here you can see can't connect to local MySQL server through socket. Okay. So now MySQL is ready, but it is unable to connect. So once let's come here to MySQL instance, and once let's see. So you can say almost 5 minutes 40 seconds has been completed, still it is in creating state. So let me show you one thing. So to connect to this MySQL instance, so here you can see our MySQL instance has been created successfully. Okay, so once I will open this MySQL instance, I will drop down this. So here this is the overview. So you can directly see here also, guys. Here you can see instance ID we have given first instance, and SQL edition type we created enterprise, and type we created MySQL 8.0, and this is the public IP address. So using this public IP address only we are going to connect to this MySQL instance from this virtual machine. Okay. So this is the our project ID, and we have enabled high availability. Okay, high availability is nothing but we have enabled multi-zone, right? So that is nothing but high availability. So location we created under US Central 1A, and we created with only 20 GB of storage. Okay, so let's open this, and here you can see directly select here users. So currently we have only the default user, which is root user. So we are going to connect using this root user. So in databases, you can find all the databases we have. So by default, it will provide four databases, which is information schema, MySQL, performance schema, and sys. Okay. So now in this video, we are going to connect to this MySQL instance, and we are going to create a database, and we are going to create a table, and we are going to insert some data. Okay. So now one thing you need to remember, guys. So this is the main thing. So if you want to connect to this MySQL instance using a virtual machine, so you need to provide this external IP. Okay, so you need to provide this external IP for on this MySQL instance. You can directly go to connections, and you can directly go to networking, and here you need to select public IP. So here you can see external IP is nothing but public IP. So using this public IP address only, we are going to connect to this MySQL instance, right? So here you need to select public IP, and you need to select your add network, and you need to give the any of the name network name, and here you need to provide that public. You need to provide your virtual machine public IP address here. Then only this virtual machine can communicate with this MySQL instance, guys. Okay, so this is the main thing you need to remember. So if you are not providing this public IP address in this MySQL instance, so it will unable to communicate to this MySQL instance. Okay. So if you are having two or three or five or 10 virtual machines, so if you want to connect all the virtual machines to this MySQL database, so you need to provide all that virtual machines external IPs here. Okay. So you need to remember that point. So let's come out. So currently I'm not providing any of the public IP address. I will show you the error, guys. Okay. So to connect to this MySQL instance, here you need to perform this command. Okay. So MySQL hyphen h. So here you need to give the host name hyphen u. Here you need to give the username and hyphen p. So this is the command to connect to MySQL instance. Okay. So okay, so this is the command to connect MySQL instance. So instead of user host name, you need to provide your MySQL public IP address. Okay, so this is the MySQL public IP address. So I'm going to copy this and I'll come here. Now MySQL hyphen h stands for host name, guys. Okay, so I'm going to paste my host name here. Host name is nothing but our MySQL instance public IP address. Hyphen u stands for root. Sorry, user. So currently the default user we have root. Okay, so I will, if you want to see that user, so you can directly open this and directly jump onto users. So here you can see currently we have only the one user, which is root user. So if you want to create some users, directly select here add user account and you can provide all the details here. Okay. So now let's come here and let's select here enter. So previously when we are creating this MySQL database, we provided password like Vijay at the rate 123, right? So you need to provide that password here. Vijay at the rate 123. Okay, so password will not be visible, that need to remember. Okay, so now it takes nearly 2 to 3 minutes to throw an error. Okay, so if you provided this virtual machine, okay, so if you provided this virtual machine external IP, that means public IP in connections in networking, you need to provide it here. So if you provide here, automatically within fraction of seconds, it will connect to this MySQL instance. So currently here you can see it was not connecting. Why? Because means it will throw an error, guys. Okay. So why? Because means we haven't provided this virtual machine external IP in this connections. In connections in public IP, we haven't provided that IP. So that's why it will not connect. It will throw an error. So after showing that error, let's provide this virtual machine external IP and let's try to connect. Okay. So let's wait. Let's see it will throw an error or not. So here you can see previously, as I said, it was thrown error. Can't connect to MySQL server on this IP. So this is the MySQL instance public IP address 34.42.69.231. So let's come here and let's select here overview. So here it will display the public IP address. So here you can see 34.42.69.231. So this is our MySQL instance public IP. So it is unable to connect. Why? Because means we haven't provided this virtual machine. This which we are going to connect from this virtual machine, right? So we haven't provided this virtual machine external IP on this MySQL instance. So now let's do that. Directly copy this virtual machine external IP. External IP is nothing but public IP address, guys. Okay, directly copy this, come to MySQL instance and directly open this, and you need to jump on to connections. Okay, you need to remember this, and after that you need to go to networking, and here you need to select public IP. Okay, so using this public IP address, so here external IP is nothing but public IP address. Okay, so using this public IP address only we are going to connect to this MySQL instance, right? So here you need to select public IP, and here you need to select add a network, and you need to give the any of the name network name. So I'm going to give my name Vijay network, and you need to provide that virtual machine IP address. So here you can see 34.171.157.81 means this is our virtual machine external IP. Here you can see 34.171.157.81. This is our external IP, that means public IP address of this virtual machine. Okay. So using this virtual machine only we are going to connect to this MySQL instance. Directly select here done and directly select here save. So currently it is in editing state. So now it takes nearly 10 to 20 seconds to save this. So it will complete very fast, guys. So let's wait. So now when we try to connect to this MySQL instance from this virtual machine, it will connect within fraction of seconds. Okay. So why? Because means we have provided our virtual machine external IP, that means public IP to this MySQL instance. So same like this, if you have 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 virtual machines, so if you want to connect all the virtual machines to this MySQL instance, you need to provide all the virtual machines external, that means public IP addresses here. You can directly select add a network, and you can directly provide any of the name, and you can directly provide that IP here. Okay. So always you need to remember that. So if you want to connect from your local, you can directly provide your local, that means your local computer IPv4 address here, and you can directly connect from MySQL Workbench. Okay, so in previous video I explained that each and everything. So let's remove this. So now let's come to shell, and let's perform this command once again. And Vijay at the rate 123 we have given. So here you can see within 1 second it is connected to our MySQL instance. Okay. So here you can see we are inside of the MySQL database. So this is how it works. Okay. So now let's hit show databases. So let's see how many databases we are having. So here you can see I will clear the screen and I will select here show databases. So here you can see currently we have 4 databases, which is information schema, MySQL, performance schema, and sys. So by default, we have these 4 databases. So if you want to see the databases, you can directly open your MySQL instance. So here you can see, you can directly open this, and you can directly go to databases. So here it will display all the databases. So here you can see currently we have only the 4 databases. So now if you want to create database, you can directly create database here. So or else if you want to create from terminal, come here and create database, and here you need to go the database name. So in this case I'm giving new DB, and here you can see query. Okay, one row affected. So now let's select show databases. So spelling mistakes, let's select here show. So here you can see a new DB has been added. That means we have created a new database. So if you want to see this in your local, that means in your SQL instance. So here you can see currently it was not reflecting it. Just refresh this page, guys. Okay, automatically it will reflect here. So here you can see a new DB has been created with user. Okay, so this is how it will display each and everything. So now let's do one thing. Let's use this new DB and let's create some tables and let's insert some rows. Okay, so now let's come here. Let's select here show databases and let's use new DB. I'm going to use this new DB. So previously we created this. I'm going to use this. So here you can see currently now we are inside of the new DB. Okay, so now let's create a table. So previously I have created some of the queries for today's video. I will come here. So now I'm going to create a table. Okay, users table. So I will come here and I'm going to paste it here. So I'm going to create a users table. Okay, so now show tables. So here you can see we created a users table. So now let's insert some data into this users table. So first let's insert a single row. So I'm going to insert this single record and I'm going to paste it here. Now show tables. So we created a users table. Show tables. So let's wait. It was some laggy, or else let's do one thing. Let's exit from this. So here let's directly select a retry. Connection failed. Directly select here authorize. So my internet connectivity is some low, so that's why it is facing this type of issues. Okay. So let's wait. So let's hit sudo -hi and let's select here history. It will display all the history of our comments. Oh, very nice. Okay. So let's select MySQL. Okay. Now let's try to connect our MySQL database. So MySQL hyphen H. So we need to provide this instance, MySQL instance public IP address. Previously I explained this each and everything. So unfortunately it was exited due to some internet connectivity. So let's copy the public IP address. Copy this public IP address and come here and paste it here, and here hyphen u we are going to connect using root user and hyphen p. Password is Vijay at the rate 123. So here you can see successfully it is connected to this MySQL database and show databases. So we have 5 databases. So previously we created this new DB, and let's use this new DB. So now we are in inside of this new DB. So previously we created a table, show tables. So here you can see previously we created a users table. So let's query this select star from users. So previously we inserted some data. So here you can see we have a single row. So now let's insert some multiple rows. I will come here and I will copy this 3 rows and I'm going to paste it here and select enter. So now select star from users. Let's clear the screen. Select star from users. So here you can see now another 3 rows it was displaying. So now let's insert some multiple rows. Let's come here. Let's copy this multiple rows and I'm going to paste it here and enter. Now select star from users. So here you can see we have multiple rows. Okay. So this is how we can create a MySQL instance and we can connect using virtual machines from Google Cloud. Okay, so you can connect from any of the virtual machines. Okay, so main thing is you need to provide that virtual machine public IP address to this MySQL instance. Okay, so now I will show you one thing. So let's open this MySQL instance and let's directly open this connections, directly open this networking. And if I remove this public IP address, so this public IP address is nothing but this virtual machine IP address. So here you can see 34.171.115.157.81 means this is our virtual machine IP. So if I try to delete this IP and if I save this, now connection will be lost to this virtual machine. Okay. So once let's do that. I will come here and I will remove this directly and I'm going to save this. So currently it is in saving state, right? So let's wait. So meanwhile, let's come here and let's select here exit. So we are going to exit from our MySQL database. So after saving this, let's try to connect to this MySQL instance. So let's wait. It is in. So here you can see edited successfully. That means it was saved. So currently it doesn't having any of the network. So we removed this public IP address, virtual machine public IP address in this MySQL instance. So now I will try to connect to this MySQL database. So same command Vijay at the rate 123. So here you can see it was unable to connect. So within 2 to 3 minutes again it will throw an error. Why? Because means we removed this virtual machine public IP address in this MySQL instance. In networks we removed that public IP. So that's why it is unable to connect. Okay. So now I think you can understand how it is working. So let's see whether it will throw an error or not. So here you can see again it was thrown an error. Can't connect to MySQL server on this IP. So this is our MySQL instance IP 34.42.69.231 means this is our MySQL instance IP. You can directly come to overview Here you can see 34.42.16.231 means this is our public IP address of this MySQL instance. So now I think you can understand how it is working. So always if you want to connect to multiple virtual machines from to this MySQL instance, you need to provide that virtual machines public IP address to this MySQL instance. Okay. So again, let's copy this external IP and let's come here and open this MySQL instance, first instance, and directly come to connections and come to networking, and here we are going to connect from public IP, right? So you need to select your public IP and directly select your add a network and give any of the name. I'm giving Vijay network, and here provide that public IP address. So here you can see 34.171.157.81 means this is our virtual machines external IP. External IP is nothing but public IP address of this virtual machine. Okay, here you can see this is the IP. So now I'm going to select here done. So I'm going to save this. Now again within fraction of seconds, this virtual machine can connect with this MySQL instance. Okay. So always you need to remember this point, guys. Okay. So after creating this MySQL instance, you need to provide your virtual machines external IPs, that means public IP addresses to this MySQL instance. Okay. So currently it is in editing state. So let's wait. So here you can see edited successfully. So we have provided our virtual machine public IP address. So now let's open the shell and let's perform that command once again. So password Vijay at the rate 123 we have given. So here you can see within 1 second it is connected to our MySQL instance. So this is how it works. Okay. So you need to provide your public IP address. That means external IP address to this MySQL instance. You can directly go to connections, and in networking you can directly select public IP and you can provide that public IP address here. It will able to automatically connect. Okay. So previously we created a database, right? So let's see that database whether it is having show databases. So here you can see we created a new database, new DB. So now let's use this new DB. Select new DB, new DB. Okay. So here you need to use command as use new DB. So we are going to use this database, right? So that's where you need to select use. Select enter. So now here you can see we are in inside of the new database. Now select we created users table, right? So first let's see how many tables we are having. Show tables. Sorry, show. So here you can see we have users table. So it is still visible, guys. Okay. So now select star from users. So here you can see all the data you can visible. So same like this, if you have one another virtual machine and if you want to connect to your MySQL instance using that virtual machine, you can directly copy the external IP to this MySQL instance. You can directly select here add a network and you can directly provide any of the name and you can directly provide that IP. So this is the main thing, you need to provide that IP, and when you save this, you can see this data in two virtual machines. Okay. So, and yes, that's it for today's video. So in this video, we created a MySQL instance and we connected using a GCP virtual machine. So in previous video, I explained you how to create a MySQL instance and we connected using MySQL Workbench. Okay, from local, we connected that. So if you are performing that from your local, so you need to provide your local computer IPv4 address to MySQL instance. In networking, you need to paste. Okay, same like this, you need to paste that IP here. Okay, so and yes, that's it for today's video. So now I will explain you how to delete this MySQL instance. Okay, directly select your overview. So after completing your labs, try to delete this MySQL instance. Okay, so this MySQL instance will charge more amount from you. So after you completing your practice, try to remove each and everything. Okay, so to remove that, directly select here overview and directly select here edit. So here you can see currently it was not displaying delete option. Why? Because means here you can see you can't delete this instance because deletion protection is enabled. So we need to disable that deletion protection, then only you can delete this MySQL instance. So to disable that, you can directly select your edit and directly come down And here you can see directly select here data protection, and here you can see instance deletion protection. Directly disable this. Currently it is in enabled. By default it will be in enabled, so you need to disable this if you want to delete this MySQL instance. So directly select here save. So here you can see now it takes nearly 10 to 20 seconds to save this. So let's wait. So here you can see it takes only 5 seconds. So now here you can see delete option. You can directly select here delete, and you can directly select this instance name, and you can directly select here delete, or else if you want to delete from outside, directly select here SQL, and here it will display all the SQL instances, or else Postgres, or else SQL servers, all the instances it will display here. You can directly select this, and you can directly select your actions, and here you can directly delete, and copy this name and paste it here, and directly select here delete. So here you can see deleting first instance. So now it takes nearly 3 to 5 minutes to delete this MySQL instance. Okay. So here you can see within less than 30 seconds it was deleted. Okay. So sometimes it takes nearly 5 minutes to delete this MySQL instance. So now I'm going to delete this my virtual machine. Directly select this, and directly select here delete, and delete. So okay. And yes, that's it for today's video. And if you like my video, please do like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, guys. And see you in the next video. And bye.